Prior to patch 2.6 ahead of season 3, the unpopular martial arts assassin was plagued with clunkiness due to charge consumption combined with next hit and next delay across two primary skill functions, Claws of Thunder and Phoenix Strike. But with the recent final patch updates, can dual mosaics finally provide the optimal quality of life we have been yearning for? In order to answer this, we foundationally need to understand how next delay impacts the assassin. The first two primary mechanics to understand are next hit and next delay. These are known as next hit delay or NHD, as they are intertwined. Next hit is a flag in the game that tells us if next delay is to be used or not on a particular missile. Next delay is the number of frames deactivated globally across all missiles post initial collision, telling the game to ignore all subsequent attacks until the deactivation is completed. We will get into a physical example shortly. Additionally, there are two functions called Last Collide and PRG Stack. Last Collide prevents a multi-collision missile from hitting a target multiple times by the same instance of the missile. It's important to note that Last Collide is specific to the missile itself and does not interfere with any other missile's ability to hit successfully and deal damage. Finally, charge up skills have a function called PRG Stack, which control whether or not the release of the charge up skills will also activate all charges below it. For example, Claws of Thunder uses the PRG stack, whereas Phoenix Strike does not. I wanted to give a special kudos and shout out to a personal friend and an amazing community member of Sanctuary, Warren, who many of you likely know, for putting together what I believe is one of the best thorough and systematic breakdowns of the martial arts assassin, and specifically helping us understand next delay and how all of the cross-functional skills and charges interoperate with one another. I will have this linked below, and I would encourage you to go through this at your own self-pace. As Warren joked, it is a bit of an essay, but it is well worth the read and the time to help us understand the assassin gameplay experience now ahead of Season 3 with the emergence of Mosaic and the new non-consume and timer expiration reset. What Warren is ultimately trying to achieve here is painting the visual canvas of all the practical and theoretical implications of all of these different interactions and combinations of charges and missiles, and how this, of course, with finishing moves like Dragon Talon and the 4-frame next delay ultimately interact. What's interesting about Warren's discoveries is that based on your charging of sequencing being all the different missiles in combination, there are some instances such as Chaos Lightning against Nova and Charge Bolts, or Nova and Charge Bolts against Chaos Lightning, where there actually is limited interference across those based on the time and the duration of the extension of those missiles. So in some cases, you actually have a positive gameplay experience. Obviously, you still have some issue around Last Collide and Next Delay, but overall, the experience is rather positive. However, while there are positive sequences to figure out, there are going to be those major implications that unfortunately do have popping or overriding issues, such as this example here of Chaos Ice Bolts against Nova and Charge Bolts. So again, Chaos Ice Bolts is the third charge on Phoenix Strike, and as a reminder, Phoenix Strike does not have the PRG stack, which means on the finishing move, it's only going to release the Chaos Ice Bolts, whereas with Claws of Thunder, at the third charge being the Charge Bolts, that does have the PRG stack, so it's going to attempt to release the Charge Bolts, and then of course the Nova beneath it. Let's expand this and look at a live example. Ultimately, what we just saw in that gameplay footage was a situation where, because the Nova is faster with an AoE effect and far-reaching, the Chaos Ice Bolts were actually hitting a wider hitbox versus the internal kill box area. So over time, through all these different releases of these charges, the Chaos Ice Bolts, again, were hitting very wide out. Now, you might look at this and say that that's not a big deal when you're doing a bigger area density, such as Chaos or Cows, because the likelihood of those still contributing to your output is positive, which is true. But generally speaking, whether you're talking about a single target or a smaller density, there is a greater likelihood than not that those are likely going to miss and ultimately be completely useless. Now, while Warren did discover some positive combination experiences, there is a unfortunate common general concern, and this again has to do with next delay. So if we think about Dragon Talon, for example, which is a kicking finishing move, at its effective IS breakpoint speed of being maxed out, you effectively hit it 3 frames. Now, if we think about the 3-frame kicking with the combination of 4 missiles having 4-frame next delay, it essentially makes every other charge activation for those missiles miss entirely, ultimately making it redundant. Let's walk through and break down a physical example. So if we assume a baseline example here that we have level 28 Dragon Talon and we've pushed it to an effective IS breakpoint to its limits, that basically means that you're going to be hitting at 19 frames or 5 hits in that duration. Now, what you have to focus on here is that when you look at the hits 1 through 4, you're going to hit at 3 frames, with the 5th hit coming at 7. So essentially what this is translating to, if we assume one of our charges like Nova, for example, is that across these 5 hits, because of the 4-frame next delay, which translates to approximately 0.16 seconds of deactivation of damage, you're only going to be landing and splashing the Nova on the 1st, 3rd, and 5th hit. So across the 2nd and the 4th kick, you are missing entirely, which quite literally translates to no damage and a total miss of that skill and charge deployment. However, I do want to caveat something, that you can, of course, manipulate your effective IS breakpoint down to get yourself into a 4 kick frame in order to gain the full effect of your skills consistently, with, of course, certain exceptions to different interference methods that Warren had mentioned. So effectively what you're looking at now in this case is, because we've lowered our breakpoints, we're now kicking at 26 frames still with 5 hits. But what this means now is that my first 4 kicks are at 4 frames, with my 5th and final hit being at 10. Now, if we think back again to the next delay frame issue of 4 frames, basically this is neutralizing that. So in essence, this should be landing your damage hits approximately nearly 100% of the time by directional proxy. But again, you really don't want to have to do this. You shouldn't be in a position to have to lower your overall increased attack speed down. That's not good from the assassin's point of view. It's not a positive gameplay quality of life experience, and you also can get yourself into some lock stun situations with slower IS breakpoints. Fortunately for all of us, Warren put together some really awesome closing thoughts on the situation and proposed changes that were surfaced to Pez Radar and the Blizzard developers, in hopes that in future patches they can look to somewhat remanipulate and implement this strategy. But the general baseline and where Warren is going is really this first line here, which is essentially right now the issue is that all of the next delay is global across all skill functions and missiles, and so effectively what Warren's main recommendation was to make this global per the skill function. But there was actually an amazing also recommendation, which Warren also endorsed, by Kilday, or Childay, how you pronounce it, which effectively what he's recommending is that you really should just make the next delay given towards a specific skill function being executed, and that missile being created by that specific skill function, which effectively in this case would eliminate the blocking and the overriding and the skipping that we've had previously. Now, none of these are obviously perfect. No one here is completely suggesting that next delay or last collide cease to exist. You do need those for certain control cases, but it's great to see the community coming together and putting together these recommendations. But really now what I want to talk about is how I believe that dual mosaics ahead of Season 3 actually do help us a lot with our gameplay experience, improve the martial art assassin quality of life, and you can still very much be considered an A to S tier as we enter Season 3 and beyond. Mosaic was massively upgraded in the final 2.6 patch notes, moving from 25% non-consumed to 50% per claw. In addition, they added a critical refresh of the charge expiration timer, making it unlimited as long as a finishing move is executed. Usually the charges are exhausted after 15 seconds. This enables a massive quality of life improvement, allowing the martial arts assassin to choose and create the desired combination of charges you want, instead of guessing and hoping for the best. While Mosaic does not eliminate next delay, the non-consume and expiration reset gave us a step in the right direction. Shadow and I wanted to demonstrate the power of dual mosaics with the extended timer, so we created a simple baseline modded simulation offline. What you are currently viewing is Players 8 Chaos Sanctuary. Shadow used Dragon Claw as his finishing move, and he combined his parameters using the second charge of Phoenix Strike, third charge of Claws of Thunder, third charge with Fist of Fire, and finally, the third charge with Cobra Strike. What makes this combination lethal are a few elements. First, the third charge of Fist of Fire, being the circular AoE firewall, is not subject to next delay or last collide. Cobra Strike for life and Mana Steel also has no next delay issues, making it interoperable with no restrictions. Finally, we know from Warren's prior testing that the combination of the second charge of Phoenix Strike being Chaos Lightning with Nova and charge bolts of Claws of Thunder had little to no interference. While there is no one-size-fits-all approach, this showcases how powerful the new martial arts assassin has become ahead of Season 3.